Okay, there we go. Rampancy, welcome. I mean, Carmelo left the Nuggets on not so great terms, to my recollection, so I don't think he should
Yeah.
be terribly expecting of very much appreciation.
Yeah, and I think his whole shtick, like he needs to shut the fuck up. Big time. Because number one is what you said. When he left the Nuggets, he didn't wait out his contract, which was very close to expiring anyway. He forced his way out because he wanted to go play with Amari and go to the Knicks. And what's funny is when Amari went to the Knicks, that was his team by himself. And Amari was actually a little bit steamed because he was like, man, I wanted this to be my team. But, the Knicks were like, oh my God, Carmelo Anthony. But Melo, like, he was never willing to accept a smaller role. He was basically uncoachable. The best that the Knicks looked at any point when they had Carmelo on their team was during Linsanity. It's like, bro, this is the fucking picture perfect moment for Mike D'Antoni. He's got exactly what he wants. Let him cook, but no, couldn't do that. Bitch move from Melo. But so like Denver's got plenty of reason to be upset with him, but even still, they didn't give out the number to just anybody. They gave it to fucking Jokic. Now, when they drafted the guy, they may not have figured that he was going to be their franchise player moving forward. But Carmelo's making this big stink now. This is coming now after Jokic has already given the franchise its first and only championship and won 2 MVPs, probably picking up a third this season. On what fucking planet does Melo think that he's a better player for Denver all time than Jokic is? Like, Jokic has done more in less time than Melo has, so by the time Jokic has been playing for the team as long as Melo had been, it'll be a done deal. So yeah, it's big time just sour grapes, and he needs to
Yeah,
really be quiet.
yeah. Rampancy, Fargo season 4 was still pretty good. It's very unfocused. There's too much stuff in there, but I still think it's worth watching. It's not as good as the first 3 seasons, not even close. Honestly, I don't think season 5 was that much better than 4 though, so I don't feel like it's the downfall. I mean, I don't feel like it's like the weak link of the franchise. I think the franchise is just kind of getting weaker. I will admit that I'm a little surprised that Jokic got Melo's number, but then again, what did Melo do in Denver that was so great?
Yeah, Jokic wasn't the first guy to get Melo's number. Melo's making a big stink because he's upset that when the number gets retired, it'll be retired for Jokic and not him. Because two other players wore 15 between Melo and Jokic. And again, that's when Jokic came into town, they didn't think he was going to be their best player in franchise history right away. They drafted him like the 40-some pick. They were just giving him 15 because they're like, whatever, He wanted 15, we gave it to him. But by this point now, it's like, well, I mean, not his fault that he's better than Melo. Like, Melo should have been better, pretty much. Well, I'll tell you what's wild, though, is that Victor Wembanyama got more All-Star votes than Anthony Edwards.
What a sicko.
The Timberwolves, yeah, the Timberwolves still have the top record in the West. Anthony Edwards is their best player, and Edwards is having by far a better season than Wembanyama by any stretch of the imagination, and fucking Wemby gets more All-Star votes. Disgraceful. I hope that because Wemby didn't get enough votes to be a starter, so I'm really hoping that the coaches do not put him on there on the All-Star bench. He is not an All-Star. Like,
I
you
mean, his
cannot sit there and
presence
tell.
increases the viewership of the All-Star game significantly, so they'll probably feel obligated to do it.
And I hate that. Like,
Mm-mm.
such a bad player, and the team is dreadful. You can't tell me, like, it's like, All-Star's supposed to be a higher quality, higher caliber player. If you took anybody else on that fucking roster and you plopped them on the Spurs, they would have won more games. Less.
Phone you're using was in my ass yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, Fargo season 5 was too on the nose and contemporary, I feel like. And I really did not like the ending very much. I was very surprised with the way they ended that season. Oh, it's just so on the nose. Like, the villain of the season is literally a constitutional sheriff who loses. And by the way, this is going to be some spoilers for season 5 for the next few minutes. Um, a constitutional sheriff who loses a rigged election and then gets a local militia to come try to protect him rather than vacate his office. Yeah, I don't know. It's like very on the nose, ain't it?
Yeah.
Feels like they weren't trying that hard. And, the fact that the show takes place in 2019, I think is a mistake. Fargo should be taking place in the recent past, the 80s, the 90s, the 70s.
Yeah. I agree with you there.
Mhm.
Especially since the premise is based off of the Coen Brothers movie Fargo, because that's the only thing that it could ever be based off of.
Mhm.
No, but for real, like, it should not be taking place in 2019. That's
Yeah. The only part about the ending that I liked was the conclusion they reached with the Sin Eater character. That was kind of interesting. That I didn't expect. Everything else was way too happy and clean, man. Like, Fargo's supposed to be, like, bittersweet. Fargo's supposed to throw you a curveball. The only, and the way things ended felt like a Disney movie for most of it. But they'll never do better than season 2. Season 2 is the best Fargo will ever do. It's really hard to do better than that. Oh, the season kind of felt like it was being written by diversity hires, if you catch my drift. I think about the way the season 3 ended, literally telling you, absolutely refusing to give you even the slightest hint of how that season ends. Basically, it just stops. Like, you don't know anything about how season 3 actually ended. They just resolve most of the plot lines, and then they're like, okay, do the good guys win or the bad guys win? We'll never tell you. And then you get an ending like this. It just feels completely different. And the thing with like 1 and 2 is that the main characters are the villains. They do the villain protagonist thing, which is great. I think that's the approach here. Especially when they're like conflicted villains, like Martin Freeman. He didn't want to be a bad person initially. He just basically, Satan convinced him to start being a bad person to overcome how weak of a person he was, basically. And there's kind of a villain protagonist in season 5, but he's incredibly ham fisted with his villainy. It's like Snidely Whiplash almost. And that's not to say that I didn't appreciate the character at all, but I don't know. But anyway, so how you feeling right now, Snacks?
Uh, what's a little better? And it's not as strong, but I don't know if that's because it's gotten better or because it's just the pain gets worse the longer I've been awake. So, like the best I feel is always right after I wake up. So I don't know if it's because I woke up recently or because it's actually better. So we'll wait and see. Trying to sleep for like 6 or 7 hours, and that fucking dog just starts. I'm like, you gotta be shitting me.
Hell of a time getting to sleep even without disturbances. I just lay there alone
Right.
with my thoughts forever. So last night I was using Grok, and for some reason, it would write a story for me, and then I would tell it to rewrite the story, but do this instead. Like, focus on this, do more detail
Mhm.
here. And it would just copy and paste the same exact story. It was weird. It was like,
Yes.
it wasn't picking up on my direction.
I I have noticed the same issue, and that's one area where ChatGPT is superior. But I think it's because they're probably not focusing on Grok's development in that sense. So usually when I want it to rewrite the same concept, what I do is if copy pasting the prompt itself didn't give it a better shot, then I try to fine tune the prompt.
Hmm.
But you know, if it wrote an excellent thing and it just needed a few things here and there, then having a new input output will result in an entirely new fucking thing. I'm sitting there like I don't know how to handle it. I think it'd be to copy paste what Grok had said,
Mhm.
and then say use this as the template. However, I would like you to have write this story, but exchange this for that. Is what I'm thinking. We'll try it out in a minute here.
Thank you, President Obama, but I must say I'm very disappointed I'm receiving this award from you and not from President Trump.
That was fantastic. Hello, everyone. I'd like to make an announcement. Sir, you can't do that. Yes, I can. Burger King crown goes on.
How about we leave these people alone if they're not doing something relevant to us, especially Pete? Like, leave Pete alone. He has so little to do with this team at this point.
Wait, I've got it. I know who the Seahawks should hire as their new head coach.
Who?
Russell Wilson.
Mm. I thought you were going to say
He can
Cosmo
coach.
Kramer.
Exactly.
A full body dry heave set to music. I'm sorry. There's just no way we're going to be able to keep you on. Well, I don't even really work here. That's what makes this so difficult.
I'll be back in a second. I'm just back at the global menu. My stuff needed repairing.
Hmm.
And while I'm here, I might as well buy some junk.
I'm hoping my rod makes it until I get to level 30. I think it's going to be very close. Because once I get to level 30, I might need to buy a new rod anyway. In fact, I would expect that I need to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that rampancy.
Yeah, let me get the new net right now while I'm here.
I saw that rampancy. It was pretty funny. I appreciated it. I mean, in terms of coverage, they did post like legitimate statistics. They didn't make any of that up. Bad mood. Dr. Cooper, I think it's time for you to leave. JS, what's up? I gotta tell you, I was not particularly impressed with the ending, JS. Felt like I was watching a Disney movie. I was very, very surprised with how cleanly it ended. The only thing about the ending I liked was how they handled the Sin Eater, because that was kind of unexpected and surprising, which is what Fargo should be about. Everything else felt like I was watching a Disney movie. Austin, probably when they beat the Patriots. Either that or the Bears, right? It has to be one of those two.
What are you discussing? Best wins of the season?
But yeah, JS, I don't know. And honestly, and I say this as somebody that did not hate The Last Jedi, I feel like this was kind of like The Last Jedi of Fargo, where every single conflict is about a woman overcoming a man, which is kind of what happened in The Last Jedi, which is why some people really hated it. I didn't, just like I didn't hate this season, but it was very ham-handed in my estimation. And the yeah, like what was up with the cop lady, her husband? What was the point of that husband character other than to have a man who was completely incompetent and stupid that the woman could overcome in the last few episodes? Like, that is such a useless plot arc, such a useless character. Like, what is that doing here? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, JS. You could smell that coming off this whole season. And that's not what Fargo's supposed to be about. And I feel like some people think that maybe it is, but yeah, Austin. But I don't know. It felt like The Last Jedi in Fargo form in some areas. Yeah, JS. She is, except she's competent, and the wife in Fargo, all she did was yell, like Vicky Vale in Batman. Like that stuff's fine, but like you had the cop lady and her useless husband, the villain. Like I don't even think Dot was a Mary Sue. It's not like she's winning battles. It's not like she's kung fu fighting dudes twice her size and winning. She's just smart and savvy and has good awareness. It like I actually thought that was great. I actually really liked that part of it. But like it's also too on the nose. Like the villain of the season is literally a constitutional politician who loses a rigged election and has a an armed militia come in and defend him rather than vacate his office. Like it's very on the nose. I'm sorry. It's a little too obviously contemporary, and I don't think that's what Fargo should be. Like they even had the sheriff character, like when the FBI shows up to arrest him, he's like, "This is a witch hunt." It's like it's not subtle.
Yeah. And that itself is a huge problem with doing any kind of work of fiction that takes place in what is when it was created, the present day. Because a lot of these fucking faggots who are writers of the show can't help themselves. At least when it's taking place in the 80s or some shit, like they still can't help themselves, but all they ever do is talk about Ronald Reagan or Margaret Thatcher. You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, fine. But this kind of crap, like, I haven't even watched the show, but I'm like, yeah, I can completely imagine what Joker's talking about, where it just takes over the entire narrative
Mm-hmm.
of, oh, look, it's a Donald Trump XP. Like, who fucking cares? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of his characterization, he's not a Trump XP, but in terms of his situation, 100%. Like
Right.
his characterization is like a corrupt rural sheriff.
Right. So it's even stupider on that front because if you wanted to make the political jab at a contemporary person, the Sheriff Joe Arpaio's right there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's like no, instead you got to go for the Trump because it's exactly like I said. Where in the '80s, all they ever do is talk about Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher because those are the only conservative politicians that they're even aware of. You know, they're literally too much of a midwit to even make the Arpaio connection, which for what they wanted to do would seemingly be a layup for them. But no, it's because they're so obsessed with Trump they can't help themselves. It just comes across as intellectually dishonest and extremely lazy.
Scarecrow Bar, what the fuck? Why would you even say that? Of course it
What
would
do you
make
say?
me not like you. Jesus Christ.
What?
Like that's a real thing. Like that's not even a joke anymore, Scarecrow Bar. That's actually something that could happen.
Oh, yeah. I gotta check what happened. I'm gonna reel in this fish super fast. Yeah, I'm using the new keep net that we're gonna be using for when we move on here. Since I was already at the main menu, I just went and bought it.
Very nice.
It's the Fish Fort S,
Hmm.
which is a max fish size of 33.1 pounds, and the full container is 198.4 pounds. So I'm just
I.
like, I don't think I'm ever filling this fucking thing up.
Hmm.
How's that even a question? Things you shouldn't even have to ask people for 500. That's pretty good.
That was good. Yeah.
This is the only month. It starts with Feb. John Connery. Febtober. That's wow. What a question.
Now that I think about it, the sheriff character even was on his third wife. I didn't even think about that while watching the show.
It would even get like more nuts if the third wife was foreign, but the first two were American.
Yeah, they didn't go that far.
You know what's wild to me is the amount of people who hate on Trump and continue to say that like he's bald or he wears a toupee or any of the shit like that. I'm like, I'm old enough to remember when you guys freaked out at Jimmy Fallon because he had Trump on Fallon,
Hmm.
and he was like, I've wanted to muss up your hair forever, and Trump was like, yeah, go for it. Then he went fucking wild with his hair, and he's like, oh my god, it's actually his hair.
Hmm.
I'm like, I watched that shit live on TV.
I remember when I was younger, seeing my grandmother come out of her bedroom without her hair on, and she's bald. And that
Um,
kind of traumatized me because I was like, wait a minute, that's been a fucking wig this whole time? And it's like,
yeah,
yeah, you get older, you lose your hair. It's the way of the world.
well, it's especially jarring for those of us who may have dated an African American woman or two in our time,
Hmm.
where you expect that kind of shit to happen when it's like a 90-year-old woman, but when she's in her 20s, oh my god. Weaves enrage me for that reason.
Like, the Wonder Woman sequel also did a Trump XP, although it was Trump in the 80s, not Trump now, so it's different. But that movie was basically a comedy, so I don't really, that didn't bother me that much. It's like they're having some, they're having fun with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, that movie sucked balls for other reasons, but like Fargo's supposed to be kind of serious. Fargo's supposed to be well written.
Yeah.
Luckily, we had great performances.
Right. And that again is why I just feel super fucking better when the further back in time that the show is taking place, the better. To just stop these. Just, sometimes they just can't help themselves.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like the further back you go, the more people are willing to just kind of accept things as it is what it is. Although
Right.
we're starting to slip away from that. Like if you have George Washington in a movie, you're not going to depict him as some ruthless tyrant because that's ridiculous and no one's going to take you seriously. Yeah, I know Rampancy. The second movie sucked, but it was by and large trying to be a comedy. So I thought it was, fine that they're doing the whole Trump thing with the villain. And again, it was 80s Trump more than modern Trump anyway, so who cares? They're not even really trying to
Yeah.
be contemporary. They're just, we need a villain. Let's do the 1980s version of Donald Trump. Sure.
Yeah. And it wasn't even 1980s Trump. It was just Trump in that Home Alone movie where he showed up there, which is a
down the
fictional.
down the hall and grab him by the pussy.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, Big Country. That's actually a great example because Assassin's Creed 3 is far and away the least popular Assassin's Creed game that was ever made because it happens to fall between the two most popular Assassin's Creed games that were ever made. Defining game. And 4 is the best pirate themed game ever made.
I mean, the idea behind
3's,
the DLC in Assassin's Creed 3 was the idea that George Washington found one of the golden apples and became corrupted by it. Like that's fine. That's not
yeah,
trying to
that
say, oh,
too.
George Washington was actually a tyrant in real life. That would be goofy.
Right. All I was trying to say is that there were a ton of things going on with Assassin's Creed 3 where the writing was piss poor, the delivery on the storylines that had been getting built up for, a full trilogy by that point, the delivery was weak. Um, the game was kind of all over the fucking place. They they really dropped the ball on that one.
I like how they just ended it with Desmond committing suicide, and it's just like, duh, it's over. Go back
Yeah,
to your lives.
that was really weak.
And somehow the series has been going on for like 12 years after that. Like, you killed off the main character, bro. You've resolved the main major plot thread. Why are we still getting games?
As a huge fan of The Last of the Mohicans, I felt like they shouldn't have done the Revolutionary War. It should have been before the colonies split away, during the conflicts that they had there. Because doing the Revolutionary War in the background made that at a lot of points just take over the plot of the story. And I felt that was super weak because they wouldn't have had that kind of a background if they did it before the colonies were splitting away. In bed.
Wonder if Darvin Ham gets fired this week. Lakers literally lost to the Nets. Only the pure raw incompetency of the Western Conference keeps them afloat. And I do mean just barely. Come to my attention that you have engaged in sexual intercourse with the cleaning lady on the desk in your office. Is this true?
I don't know why she told.
Because she was mad at him and was trying to get him fired.
Oh,
Because he gave her
but
a
didn't it just
casual
get her
slip.
fired too?
No, she was probably working with a staffing agency that would just send a different woman and she would be put on a different assignment. Like, I don't think the staffing company that supplies her really cares that much.
Fair enough.
That would be my assumption. That is funny, David. Who would want a piece of David Shaw? Fishing. Yeah, Austin, absolutely. That's a big factor at play here that some people just aren't quite getting, I think. Yeah, I remember Hatham Kenway. Yeah, wasn't the villain in Assassin's Creed 2 the Pope? Pope Borgia or something?
Yes. Um, He didn't start the game as the Pope, but through political machinations, he ended up becoming the Pope.
Is he a pope in real life, or did they make that up for the purpose of the game?
Yes, he was a Pope in real life. He's based off of an historical figure. The Borgias was a
Hmm.
very powerful and influential family, and they've been the subject of many different conspiracy theories throughout all of history.
So Assassin's Creed won't get in trouble if they use him, since in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yes. In fact, Borgia is remembered as like one of the worst popes ever because of the extent of his corruption.
Hmm.
Yeah, Pope Alexander VI, born Rodrigo Borgia, was head of the Catholic Church and ruled the Papal States from 1492 till his death in 1503. Alexander is one of the most controversial of the Renaissance popes, partly because he acknowledged fathering several children by his mistresses. As a result, his Italianized Valencian surname, Borgia, became a byword for libertinism and nepotism, which are traditionally considered as characterizing his pontificate. Alexander's papal bulls of 1493 confirmed or reconfirmed the rights of the Spanish crown in the New World following the finds of Christopher Columbus in 1492. During the Second Italian War, Alexander supported his son Cesare Borgia as a condottiero for the French king. It's like a specialized kind of mercenary captain.
Hmm.
The scope of his foreign policy was to gain the most advantageous terms for his family. So he did a lot of things that popes were not supposed to do.
That is just about full. Looks so weird fishing during the day. It doesn't look right because I'm so used to fishing at night.
Seriously. Following the death of Pope Alexander VI, his rival and successor Julius II said on the day of his election, "I will not live in the same rooms as the Borgias lived." He desecrated the Holy Church as none before. The Borgia apartments therefore remained sealed until the 19th century. Catholic apologists of Alexander VI have argued that the behaviors he receives criticism for were not atypical of the period. De Maistre, in his work Du Pape, the latter are forgiven nothing, because everything is expected from them, wherefore the vices lightly passed over in a Louis XIV became most offensive and scandalous in an Alexander VI. Alexander VI had sought reforms of the increasingly irresponsible Curia, putting together a group of his most pious cardinals in order to move the process along. The planned reforms included new rules on the sale of church property, the limiting of cardinals to one diocese, and stricter moral codes for clergy, though these were not implemented. The thing that goes on there is wondering whether or not he was actually a bad dude or just his family was very, very hated and despised for how powerful they were, and many other noble families of the time wished that they had that kind of power and influence. And because there were so many more of them than there were of the Borgias, they had the ability to kind of shaped the opinion of the Borgias at the time. However, it also goes pretty much unargued, even by the people who support the Borgias, and especially Pope Alexander, that they did in fact do the bad stuff that the other noble families hated them for. It's just excused away as saying, well, fucking everybody did that shit. So why would you hate him for it? Everybody else was doing it. And while there is some merit to that, there's also merit at the concept that the Pope should be above such kinds of things, especially when his predecessor and successor were. So during the time period, those in living memory of both popes saw that both his predecessor and successor acted very differently to him. They were like, that kind of cements the thought process there.
Right. I am
It
almost at
actually acted.
120 grand, by the way.
Oh, nice. So yeah, when you have to go back to repair if you wanted to, then yeah, you could buy the fish fort thing like I did. I think it's only like 20,000.
I'll wait until I get to level 30 and buy what I can there. I'm trying to make this last, which I think it will, honestly.
Yeah, I just need to remember what the 'cause we're going to be catching larger fish, but they're not fish that we've never caught before. Just larger versions of the fish. 'Cause
Hmm.
we've even caught plenty of them here. You know, when you don't get a walleye, what you do get is pike. That's where we're going to Michigan. Is we're going to get northern pike, but they're going to be much larger. And the pike have a much lower return in terms of the payout for their weight than walleye do. But these pike are large enough to where it doesn't matter because even though it's not as efficient pound to dollar ratio as walleye, you know, the walleye we're catching are anywhere from 2 to 4 pounds typically, and the pike that we'll be catching in Michigan will be like 7, 8 pounds. So we'll make a lot more money for picking those ones up.
Hmm.
But because they're heavier, we're going to need a much stronger reel than we're using right now. Otherwise, it'd snap like a fucking twig.
Mr. Beat made a video, Worst Supreme Court Justices in History, and of course he put Clarence Thomas at number 7. He claims to be a
Of
history
course.
teacher, and yet he doesn't understand how insane the Supreme Court was in the late 1800s and early 1900s. My God.
It's like a classic tell of someone who's just a complete sack of shit. Because anytime they try to do some kind of discussion about best or worst whatevers, and then they keep mentioning a bunch of modern day people,
Hmm.
it's like your own political biases of right now are completely um, obscuring your ability to actually look at things objectively, which you just refuse to do.
Yeah, I think the guy who made the LeBron James Constantinople video is a better historian than this guy.
Seriously. Unironically, some would say.
The Istam Lakers, but the Istam Cleveland Cavaliers. Both contained the city of Jordan and the Jordan River.
What was no doubt meant as a slight to the self-styled king. I love that guy.
Was the Ming Dynasty prematurely ended by diminutive African Americans who dribbled the ball too long?
Yeah, I was reminded in my Sonics franchise that the T-Mac rockets are basically just the Magic, because T-Mac stayed on the Magic, but then Yao, for whatever reason, the Rockets didn't match the qualifying offer when it was up for his rookie deal. The Magic just threw a max at him, and the Rockets were like, "Okay, we'll let him walk." And I'm like, "What the hell are you doing?" Yao fucking killed us in this game we were playing.
I remember in NBA Live '07, which I played a lot on PC, there players like Yao Ming, if you played the Rockets, all the Rockets would do would get an entry pass into Yao Ming, and it was literally guaranteed bucket. There was nothing you could do to stop it. Your only hope was to prevent the entry pass.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was trying to do. Because like, rookie Joakim Noah still has excellent defensive stats, but Joakim Noah is like 8 inches shorter than Yao Ming.
Mhm.
So because of the height advantage, it was basically like 2K's height advantage modifier kicked in. So Noah literally had like no presence
Mm.
defensively. Yao had I think it was 28 points on 10 for 11 shooting.
Yeah.
He missed one shot because he tried to take a three. And the
Mm.
only reason that happened is because T-Mac was absolutely getting locked up by Tony Allen. So T-Mac, instead of taking the shot with like 2 seconds left on the shot clock, passed out to Yao. So then he just had to. Was Yao his first name or his last name? Because Ming sounds like it should be a last name.
Hmm.
It doesn't sound like it should be a first name. But
So you're saying his name in China would have been Ming Yao?
but is that actually his name? Like is Yao Ming with the actual honorific and his first name is Ming? Because Yao was on his jersey.
Hmm. I don't know.
Yao was his last name. Ming's his first name.
Huh.
And that surprises me because Ming sounds like it should be a last name because of precisely the joke that had been mentioned, the Ming Dynasty. I'm like I thought Ming for sure would have been a last name. Well, that's the way it is with all these new names for teams that change their names. Commanders is extremely generic and has absolutely nothing to do with the region, with the culture. It's dumb as shit. And it's the exact same with the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Guardians? What the fuck? It doesn't have anything to do with the region, doesn't have anything to do with the culture, doesn't have anything to do with the history of the franchise as a concept. What the fuck? Literally, Washington football team was better than Commanders.
Washington football team was funny.
Yeah, that's why I still call them the Redskins, man. Why the fuck wouldn't you?
Fun to call them the Commodes,
I will
though.
net. Seriously. I will never laugh harder than when I was watching some beautiful son of a bitch. I am so glad they did this. They had on their camera phone. They were filming the home uh franchise's attempt to get people to re-sing the fight song with the word Commanders instead of Redskins, and the whole fucking crowd is just chanting Redskins still. Because like "Hail to the Commanders" is the dumbest, gayest shit I can think of. A "Hail to the Redskins" has been around for like 50 fucking years. Like, don't take my culture away from me. Renaming it because of uh, upset over racism and all this kind of shit really bothers me because a lot of American cultural, like our culture, our history, a lot of it has to do with Native Americans and the history of our interaction with Native Americans throughout the history of the country. Like the names of a lot of different places are named as they were because that's how the natives named it, or it's an honor to a tribe that lived in the area. Um, we name a lot of military equipment after different Native American stuff. Like it was part of the American experience of the forging of the country, the expansion of the frontier, interaction with these Native American tribes, and naming stuff after them was part of them being assimilated into the greater American identity. Then getting mad, oh my god, you can't call them Redskins. That's so offensive. It's like, dude, it's been fine for fucking 50 years.
Hmm. Should have named themselves the Staplers. When
And
I
yeah, I'll
played,
never call the Cleveland Indians the Guardians. They're always going to be the Indians to me.
whenever I played Madden 2005, I would always move the Seahawks to Tacoma, and I would rename them the Staplers, so they would be the Tacoma Staplers.
That is so fucking stupid. That's fantastic. I love it.
It,
Could you imagine?
and it was because of Office Space, to be clear.
I know. I know. But could you fucking imagine though? Holy shit.
Honestly, is
Oh man.
Lakers really a better name? Like, what the fuck? It's Lakes. How is that cool? The Lakers.
And that's another great example of the culture of an area leading to the team being named that, and then the team moves, and then nothing makes any fucking sense.
Hmm.
But they still kept the name because it was part of the franchise's identity and culture. But it was the
And
Minneapolis Lakers. That makes sense. It's referring to the people who would work out on the lakes, who would be called Lakers.
hmm
And it made just as much sense as naming any other kind of sports team in the 50s. The most egregious one by far was the New Orleans Jazz, which makes sense because New Orleans is where jazz was invented, moving them to Utah, where there is no music.
Huh. I think Utah's like Footloose. It's not legal to
Exactly.
dance there.
Exactly. Let's dance. God, it is dead as fuck. I have not caught a fish in like the last half hour.
Oh, dude, I would have given up way before that. I would have jumped ahead an hour ago.
Well, that's the thing that's killing me is that this is supposed to be a hot zone according to the weather thingy. I don't know why it's so fucking dead. When I say half hour, I mean in real time.
I can't. By the way, off topic. I cannot believe Jay Gruden and RG3 are still fighting with each other on X. Like, what the
Wow.
fuck?
See, I remember I didn't necessarily meet him, but like way back in the day. Um I used to work at Five Guys in Ashburn, Virginia, which is right up the street from where the Redskins training facility was, and I'm pretty sure that's still the Redskins facility that they use today. The training facility. So it was a pretty big fucking moment because Five Guys in Virginia is like a religious experience. It's like In and Out is on the West Coast. Um, Five Guys is just part of the culture in Virginia because Virginia is where Five Guys was created.
Right.
And because of that, when they would come to visit our location, it was a huge deal when the Redskins team would show up. People would show up, they'd be like fucking packed around the damn block, and everyone would want to get autographs and to be able to see the Redskins and all this kind of shit. And I still have a couple autographs here and there from people, but seeing RG3, and I was like, man, he just seemed miserable.
Mm,
Like he
I
just did
believe it.
not want to deal with people.
RG3's
That's
career
my
in the NFL was
enduring,
suffering.
absolutely. Like that's my enduring impression of the guy was that no matter how the media may be trying to portray him and all this kind of stuff, when he had to be somewhere and there weren't a ton of cameras, he was just like, man, I wish I could just not be here right now.
Hmm. Hey, Jake Capelot. Things are going pretty good tonight, man. Good to see you. Okay, so I went to go visit a lawyer today, right? And the person who founded this law firm that I went to, it's a pretty small it's a pretty small thing, but it's been around for decades, right? And the guy who founded the firm was very, very anti-technology, and they just kind of continued with that, even though he's long since passed away. So the room that I met the lawyer in had, I want to say, like 12 filing cabinets of 3 drawers each, filled with, trusts sorted in alphabetical order. And they said that they actually had 2 sheds in the back of the building, each one completely filled with wills and trusts and documents because they just don't want to use computers for it. And I was like, man, that seems like, how is that possibly worth it? What a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Totally nuts. Yeah, I just Googled it here. Yeah, the Ortho Virginia Training Center at Commanders Park Sports Complex in Ashburn, Virginia. 21300 Coach Gibbs Drive, Ashburn, Virginia. That's their little training facility. Name that street. It's a different name than it was when I lived there. But
Man. You must have. Yeah,
all this stuff takes me back.
man. You must have hated
So,
living in Washington, D.C.
well, that's the thing with Ashburn is that it was a suburb of DC, and it's where like it was one of the richest suburbs of DC. So it was extremely low crime, extremely low minority count. It's where like all the people who would work and lobby, who were lobbyists in DC and who would work for the politicians in DC, it's where they would actually families and everything. So it was a really nice place when I was there. But, here we are now all these years later, and I can only imagine what the hell happened now. But it was much better than living here in California. That's for sure. I went to Baltimore once and regretted the hell out of it. Baltimore was an absolute dump.
Fuck you, Baltimore.
Exactly. It's kind of fucking crazy as I'm looking at this little Google Maps of the Eastern Seaboard. It's like, yeah, here's Washington, D.C., and then you could just take a freeway up, start heading northeast, and you go through Baltimore, you go through Philadelphia, you go through Trenton, New York City. And then, if you keep going northeast from there, you could move your way up to Hartford, Connecticut, up in Springfield, Massachusetts, and then just go due east and hit Boston. I'm like, man, driving on the freeway, going in these directions, would have taken me less time than it takes for me where I am right now to like drive to San Francisco if I wanted to. I'm feeling like an idiot that I never ventured out any further from where I was at than Baltimore. Because I missed out on the opportunity to go to a lot of different parts of the country.
I don't like to travel.
I'm not like a huge travel guy either. I'm thinking about it more in the terms of like, it would have been neat to visit those places before they became even bigger absolute hellholes like they are right now. Like, imagine how you would have felt about visiting New York City like 15 years ago compared to if you had to go now. You'd be feeling a lot less excited about the prospect, wouldn't you?
Hmm. J.K. Rowling is now reported to be an active exec producer on the Harry Potter series, where she will be involved in the show's decision making.
There's a show.
Yes, HBO is going to do a Harry Potter show.
Oh God, why?
I mean, like, the movies were very recent. Like, the movies was something that has happened this century.
In fact, they're so recent that doing if they just redid a couple of the most recent Harry Potter films where Harry's an adult pretty much already, You could still get Daniel Radcliffe to do him, and it wouldn't look fucking weird or nothing.
I mean, then again, do you remember 10 years ago when they remade like Total Recall and Point Break?
Yes,
I
and
guess
they were
it's not
dreadful.
I guess it's not that different, right?
Yeah, they just missed the point of Total Recall because they missed the point of every Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie, just any action movie out of the '80s in general.
Yeah, Total
Having
Recall's supposed to
Colin,
be fun.
yeah, having Colin Farrell do that really, really weird.
Mhm. Like that like the Total Recall remake just takes itself so fucking seriously.
Absolutely.
Like think about like the first Total Recall. He's like pulling the thing out of his nose when he's flying to Mars and they keep going back to his face and what it looks like.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, and the
so
thing out
fun.
of exactly the thing out of his nose. That was like such an outrageous fucking thing. They did like claymation or some shit. That was
Hmm.
stop motion or some shit. That was fucking ridiculous. Then famously the chick with the three tits.
Hmm.
In any movie that's got the little half creature inside the bigger guy, Quaid, start the reactor. Anything even remotely close to that cannot be considered a serious film, but that was one of the greatest moments. They just completely missed the point of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
Hmm. What if they redo? What if the Harry Potter remake they like decide to make it rated R, and it's like The Sopranos but in Hogwarts or something? What if that's the angle? There's like
Jesus,
nudity.
that'd be fucking amazing.
Yeah, titties everywhere. Or no, it's like Oz, but instead of a prison, it's a school.
Jesus.
Like Neville spends the entire first season being Malfoy's bitch, and then at the start of season two, he like beats him up and takes a shit on him on the Quidditch field.
Jesus Christ.
It's literally
It's
what
like
happens in
that.
Oz.
Exactly. It's like that Grok story where Kramer and George go to prison together, so Kramer sells George into ass slavery for protection. Outstanding.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons made this one guy his prison bitch for like the whole first season, and in the second season he just snaps and beats the shit out of J.K. Simmons and defecates on him in the middle of the basketball court in front of
Nice.
everybody.
You love to see it.
Yeah, David, neither of those contracts made a lot of sense to me. I gotta be honest. Seemed like a pretty significant overpay on both ends to me. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, what if that's the angle? They just decide Harry Potter, but Game of Thrones. Sunset found Hermione in the grass, groaning.
Every
Each.
stool was looser than the one before, and smelled fouler. By the time the moon came up, he was shitting brown water.
Sunset found her squatting in the grass,
More she
groaning.
drank, more she
Every
shat,
stool was looser than
more
the
she
one
shat.
before, and
Thirsty
smelled
she
fouler.
grew.
By the time the moon came up, she was shitting brown water. The more she drank, the more she shat. But the more she shat, the thirstier she grew.
I guess back then, in the time period Game of Thrones is roughly representing, dying of diarrhea was like a realistic concern. Like that happened a lot. People would shit themselves to death. Change my pitch up. Smack my bitch up. Second. By the way, whenever I play that clip on stream, my stream will actually get demonetized because it's playing the Game of Thrones theme behind the fucking.
That's wonderful.
Obviously, I don't care when it's Twitch because that only matters when I post it to
Right.
YouTube, and those videos make no money anyway, so it means nothing to me.
Right.
And, like, by and large, the Harry Potter movies were good. They don't need to do them again. It's not like they fucked up and they're obligated to try again, like with the animated Lord of the Rings movies that everyone hated. Like, they were obligated to try that again.
Yeah.
You know, Lord of the Rings is one of the greatest stories ever told. They're obligated to portray it well in film form, and the first time they tried it was a disaster. Ooh, another trophy. All right.
Wish me luck, guys. I'm gonna be working on getting ready to take my next CompT exam
Oh,
next
yeah.
couple weeks, pretty soon.
Oh, yeah. So once you do that, are you good to go, or is there anything left?
Once I have this exam passed, then I get my A+ certification completed. From there, I still have several more CompT exams that I would need to pass as part of the curriculum to give my bachelor's, but having at least my first certification would be nice. But I'm trying to do something that I didn't do last time, which is I'm just studying the exam and I'm not studying the material that they give us. Because last time studying the material that they gave us took so many months of my life to get through, and when I actually took the exam, I didn't feel like any of the shit from the class actually helped me. But what helped me to pass was taking the practice test over and over again.
Mm-hmm. All right. So maybe things are about to get a lot better. Who
Right.
knows?
So if I pass and do that, then I know, okay, then this should all be much faster for me by doing it this way. Whereas if I take it and I fail, and especially badly, then I'm like, oh fuck, this is, oh crap. It's just a matter at that point of going and trying again. But, you know, probably get that done and let's see here. Just about.
Man, it takes me 4 net fill-ups to level up right now, basically. Brutal. That 1 year, Kazuhiro Sasaki was pretty automatic. He had the most unhittable pitch in baseball for that 1 year. Don't know what happened after that, but man, you could not fuck with Sasaki.
I missed pitchers that would throw, like, pretty much exclusively the knuckleball.
Oh, a couple of them, aren't there?
I think now it's dead. Because I want to say that Dickey was the last guy to do that.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of that going around, big country, ain't it? I only need like two more fish. Fake and gay. Wow, there should be a ton of fish in the water right now. What the hell's the holdup? It's literally peak hours right now. Hell did all the fish go? I feel like I haven't caught a fish in 84 years. There we go. Finally. Oh, it's a 2-pound walleye. Fucking useless piece of garbage. I wipe my ass with that walleye. Crazy you could have a player as good as Barry Bonds and still completely fail to make the postseason. I need a hero.
Yeah, I wish baseball would blow it out their ass with some of their so-called principles. You know,
Uh,
guys like Pete Rose and Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame.
okay, for some reason when you said principles, I heard nipples, and I was very confused.
Oh, well, yeah, those two. In order to play in Major League Baseball, you should have to get a surgery to have your nipples removed.
Mm-hmm. Ow, the fish are practically jumping into my bucket. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. So, at the World Economic Forum this week, it was suggested that rice gets banned as a source of food.
Um, they really want to kill a lot of people, don't they?
Yeah, I
My
mean,
God.
God, probably about half the world eats rice as like a staple of their diet.
Yeah, that would kill a lot of people.
And they really do hate us, don't they?
Seven times I have cast my rod out there. I have not pulled back anything.
Are you sure your game's not glitched or something?
I've got no fucking idea what the hell's happening. All right, I'm fucking sick of this.
You can't catch. You still can't catch anything.
Can't catch shit.
I wonder what the heck is going on. You were catching things to start, right? It's not like your rod is wrong or anything.
Yeah.
So, playoff football tomorrow. What are your plans, if any, other than try to fix your god awful sleeping schedule?
Um, Nothing. Like I've got nothing.
All right. Weird. I am still catching stuff. I don't understand it. I'm going to keep going for a little bit because I'm still having some luck here, so I'm just going to ride it out.
It's fine.
Mhm. Oh, did you hear about Sports Illustrated today?
No, what about it?
They fired their entire staff.
Fantastic.
They blew it all up. I remember growing up with Sports Illustrated for kids, getting that magazine in the mail every month. Loved it. I was always really confused by Sports Illustrated because there was nothing about sports in there. It was just women. I was like, why is this called Sports Illustrated? Wait, I knew they fired everybody, David. Why did their publishing license get revoked? Did they do something wrong? I wasn't aware of them doing anything wrong. There we go. Come on, give me a couple more. Well, the net's basically halfway full. So I guess we're just going to go ahead and call it good for tonight. Quit. Alright, it is almost midnight already. Crazy how that sneaks up on you, don't, ain't it?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm not turning the stream off quite yet. I want to get the second snooze on the ads before I turn the stream off because I'm going to get it in like 2 minutes. That way I can
Fair enough.
use it next time I stream. You have to be big brained sometimes in this line of work, guys. I need to make another YouTube short in the next maybe I'll make another one tomorrow. I haven't made one in a while. They really help with the sub count, even though you don't make any money off of them. It's so worth it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I felt that one in my crotch.